Hello, everyone. Welcome to My Love Myself Fix presents Coming into Grace, a new podcast hosted by mother and son duo at Courtney's Fix and at Osh's Fix. And today we're joined by Bush. How you doing today, Bush?
How's it going? How's it going? DJ Ammbush, Oakland Faders, Drums and Ammo, TFS, Today's Future Sound Organization, and Fairfax Studio, and Oakland Leadership Center, OLC.
Okay.
Or Impact, Oakland Impact Center.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
How long have you lived in the Bay Area?
My whole life, straight up. I mean, I lived in Oakland early I was born in Modesto, moved to Oakland within the first year, moved to more north, headed toward Vallejo. I stayed in a city called Benicia, and then moved back to Oakland in 2005 with my family, kids and wife. Well, we left Oakland in 88, left Oakland in 88, moved away, and then I moved back with my family, kids, and wife. And so we've been 2005 back to the town, straight up.
That's amazing. That's
Mm-hmm. We're from, I just had to say, we're from Oakland. So that's,
yeah. What? Oh, man.
I went to O'Dowd, like I went to Grass Valley and Bentley and O'Dowd. He went to Grass Valley, but yeah. So even when
you went to where?
Bishop O'Dowd.
So yeah, my daughter, my oldest brother went there, and my daughter goes there now.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, well, we were up there every day, till the quarantine. But yeah, we love O'Dowd. That's a good spot. Mm-hmm.
I was looking at the tree behind you, because that landscape is so unique. So I was like, oh, are those the pines? I was like, does he have a lemon tree back there? Like I was trying to scope.
No. Yeah, no, this is the homie spot. Yeah, this is like the hills, you know what I'm saying? Starting to go into the, right up to Oakland Hills. We're right literally on 13, headed up. If anybody watches this, feels like checking. Highway 13 is the highway that
intersection.
Yeah, exactly. Well, not the intersection, but we're right off of I don't know, Mountain Boulevard.
Sure. Yep.
So,
yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
When you were young, like when you were let's say 6, 7, when you envisioned what you would be doing, what you looked like in the future, did it, I don't want to say pan out, but are you the image of what you thought you would be when you were younger?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I hit it pretty much. I mean, it was always music. I came from standard, family. We had soul music. We had a little bit of rock, a little bit of like country. But once hip hop was introduced to me, it was, I always felt like I'd be involved with it at some point, and hopefully that it would be something I could do up to this point, like you wouldn't, from stumbling on hip hop at the age I did, I wouldn't have imagined I'd be able to kind of sustain it for this long and still be involved with it and still be a part of the community, which is to me, that's kind of the biggest part. I mean, putting the music out and the success of it is good, but the fact that I have my community that I could lean on for whatever, and it's just a family, Oakland is kind of one of those towns that once you lock in with what you want to do, you can find the folks that are on that same wave. So as a youngster, I would have aspired to be where I'm at now, and I'm still really excited about the stuff I'm doing. So definitely, I would. Yeah. So yes, I would have. I think I hit the mark, and I've been able to share what I've learned over this time with others. So
that's beautiful.
What risk do you believe that you've learned the most from?
What risks?
Yeah. Just one, like the biggest one.
well, I'm just gonna say like, as of right this second, I don't know. Risk is kind of like a fear. Then it's kind of like a fear, or just something that kind of you're a little bit more apprehensive about. I don't know about a risk. Like I don't like. I'm
I
not
just
sure
mean
exactly.
a choice that you were tentative about, that you knew you either had to make or you chose not to make, and how you learned from those actions or
Oh,
repercussions.
it was kind of. I learned that early though. Like growing up in Oakland, especially like the late '80s, it was kind of you seen the transition of the I mean, just keep it real, like drugs. You know, it's kind of like you were kind of presented choices
Right.
right in your face. You know, and you had, you know, you could sell drugs, use drugs, and it was always an environment. You know, and it wasn't anything. As soon as you stepped outside, it was right there. So you had the choice to make generally every day. So I was blessed enough to have older brothers that kind of kept me. They knew what I was into. We were all generally into the same things at the moment, and they helped to promote that and keep me in the right areas that I needed to be, regardless of what areas they choose. You know, they chose different routes, but regardless, they still made it to where they could pass down to me what I needed to walk around and be in the safe spaces that would work for me. So I would say one of the earliest risks that I can remember that I've always thought about is like the music just it really did just jump in front of everything that I felt like could have took me down the wrong path. It's always been my beacon. Like the music and art stuff has just always been like the thing that I always just been following. And I remember consciously thinking like anything that could stop me from doing this, I don't want to be a part of. Straight up. Like that just and it was easy. I made everything easy. It made my choices easy. Like, oh, this might actually stop me from being able to, you know, either paint or do, you know, art or some music or DJ. So I don't want to do it. And that was it. Straight up. And that's what I hope. That's the one thing, you know, I hope that right now it's hard for kids to really get a grip on something that's tangible that they can kind of use for their beacon, something to keep them in line, you know, keep something in front of them that makes them make the right choices. You know?
I, I agree. I think that there aren't many things that they feel that, and it's not even just invest in, that they can just fall in, that they just sort of allow to absorb them like we were able to do when we were younger. You know, they were just fully consumed with a certain hobby that filled their heart. And it seems like there's so much moving around and distracting if it's not digital that they're not able to find that level of solace that you're talking about.
Yeah, that to me is kind of like when I ever have anybody that's interested in DJing or whatever services that I have that maybe somebody can use, I'm always completely willing to do whatever I can to add to that because I know like that's important. You know, that's huge. You know, to find something that you kind of feel like can be something you can ride out for years, and you can imagine yourself 20 years, 30 years down the line doing. Like I would have the fact that I'm still DJing, and I keep bringing that up because it's still crazy. You know, it's still crazy to me because I completely remember like oh, I want to be a part of this, and then I'm still here, and we've all lost people. We've all lost friends and family due to whatever circumstances. So I just feel like that's if a kid locks into anything that they feel like could be something that's really worth their time, then you should really try to give them whatever resources you got.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When how many children do you have?
3.
You have 3? Okay. Boys and girls?
2 girls, and the youngest is a boy.
Oh, okay. When you think about growing up in Oakland, and then you think about the experiences that they are having, do you feel like you're able to give what you feel like doesn't exist anymore to some degree? Does that make sense?
No, that makes complete sense. Like, am I able to somewhat paint a picture of what we grew up with, and kind of give them an example? Like, yo, so this is kind of, I think with me, I mean, I'm a DJ, and I'm fully engulfed, and I keep up with the time, so I know what's been going on since, I don't know, Sugar Hill Gang, Curtis Blow, to like, I don't know who the newest, YBN Corday. So I kind of have the whole span. So I'm always, because I know exactly the question, and I feel like I'm doing that.
No,
I feel like I'm doing, and I kind of consciously want to be kind of a conduit for them to be like, man, so Pops, you
Right.
didn't, when you were going to rap shows, what was it like? It was a little bit more dangerous, a little bit more whatever, but that was the risk you took. That was another risk I took back then, to be a part of the community. So, answering the question, I feel like I am trying to do that, and I think they know that I've been kind of engulfed in the community, and I'm, the people that I grew up with as kids, I still have a community of people that I grew up with that are involved the same way I am. So I would hope that they can take away from that and be like, the way that I grew up with the art, it endorses these friendships that have lasted. These are gonna be, these are gonna be homies till this.
Right.
You know what I mean? It really, like,
That's
they're gonna
exactly.
be, yeah, like, you know what I mean? It's like, these are gonna be like, we all getting gray, and like, we all came from looking like you, and younger to this, so it's like, it's cool. And my kids see that. They see, and we have pictures, my kids they've been in a million, all the rap videos, and they were like, I had my oldest when she was 3 years old in rap videos. So she could watch that and be like, oh, like, I was, she was already involved. My kids grew up in the studio. They grew up in the studio. So they grew up around people that have been, not to be, but they grew up around being in the studio with people that have gone to do great things. And I hope that they can still get some of that analog feel. And they have it though. You know what I mean? They have it. Like, they have it. It's in different degrees, but they have the general idea of, like, what you're talking about, like being me transferring some of the energy and the passion that we had early to right now. Because it's hard though, because our passion was built off of not really having a light at the end of the tunnel when you started DJing. Like, there was no light there was no tunnel when I started DJing. There wasn't any career path of like, oh, I can do. It was really just the fire of being a part, and like maybe adding to the conversation musically, So so that's the hard part. You can't really transfer that passion to right now, because it's like we had more time to digest what we were listening to. Things we consumed, we had more time to digest it, settle in with it, get comfortable with it, and we weren't really bombarded with, it was like, here goes, I'll just say, here goes a LL Cool J album. And you sat with that, and you got comfortable, and you discussed it with your friends and you listened to it and you came up with your own, and maybe you read the album cover and you got the credits and oh, that was recorded there. Oh, this is LA, LA Dream. Oh, okay. So it's people in LA produce. You know, it's just we have more time to really dissect and engineer. What is it when you engineer, reverse engineer it? We had time to reverse engineer a lot of the music that we grew up with. So right now, that really isn't the thing. It's really just about consume. It's not about really consuming and really kind of becoming real comfortable and relating to the music you're listening to. So I don't know if you could do that, you know. I don't know. I mean, you could only hope that your kids, they land on something that makes them want to slow down and dig into it, you know.
And there's something to me about what you're talking about, and sometimes I wonder if I honor it too much or not. It's about a waiting space. So for me, my background is food. And so in your same respect, no one wanted me to go into food. Like there was no path for any Black woman to go into, you know, you have maybe B. Smith and you could pull it, but my point with that is, so for me, all I did was get magazines and consume them. That's all I did. And then I'd go beg for a menu at every restaurant that we went to, you know? And so, I mean, I just had paper upon paper, but there was something about a distance. There was a waiting. I had to wait for the next magazine. I had to sit there and make a different level of contact with the waiter or the manager, you know, begging for me, you know, it's just, but there's something about that almost that push and pull, but there's something, I think there's a humility in there. There's something else that I find that now it's like you're saying, just in terms of consumption, it's like, and it's phenomenal to have that much information at your hands, right? I mean, but at the same time, there's something, I don't want to, when I say dirty, I mean it in the best of ways. I mean it like earth. There's something earthy that's not happening. And so when I ask that, it's beautiful to hear you give your response, because that's what I keep trying to, I want to make sure that I'm passing some earth off in a different way that I'm not even sure I could even articulate, but that I think is important.
I mean, I probably think about that 2 times a week. Like, just like, is there, like I've said it to some of my, you know, younger homeboys. I mean, I've been privileged to, like, as the older I get, I keep working with younger artists. So I get older, then I keep, you know, and I wish I could just drag them, like, oh man, I just wish I could take you to like 90, you know, 95, 90, just so they could kind of fill it out and see like the way that the reason we put these artists on such a pedestal is because the energy was a lot more stronger and it was a lot more personal. That's why people, you know, I mean, the discussion is real. It's all hip hop, but it's whatever. But that's why, you know, like you have people dying. Like we die over this. You know what I mean? Like we die, you know, from you got Tupac, Biggie, like it's because of the strength that they had. You know, like it's hard for younger people to understand how heavy, like it wasn't just, it's not just music. And I'm sure they said the same thing about jazz, you know, like I'm sure they were like, man, like we had to do a whole lot of things to make it possible. But I hear this all the time though. Oh, we had to do all this for you to be able to. But I mean, keep it real. There had to be. It was a lot more of a critical time, and the music was. It was a lot more. I mean, it's still. I mean, no. I strike what I was about to say. I would say the music is just as important now as it was then,
Absolutely.
But I feel like it's so I'm gonna promote myself real quick. So it's called Drums and Ammo. That's my website, and it's to promote my friends. But it was really based off of the strength of music and art. You know what I mean? And really recognizing the power of it. Like I don't think we're at a point now where it seems like we have the means to really get messages out, but it feels like we're not even using the power that we have now, that, like, you know, Public Enemy and everybody would have wished that they would have had in their heyday, at their peak, if they would have had that reach. But it feels like now we have the reach, but we don't see the power and the message of music. So that's the one part that kind of, it doesn't frustrate me, but it makes me open to the idea of keeping the bridge between the younger artists that I deal with and just younger people in general, you know, just trying to keep that bridge and not being on the, oh, you're young and you did, you got the mumble rap. And I don't even like saying that's stupid, like, you know, the trap or whatever. So once you start doing that, then the bridge is broke. Nobody wants to hear about that. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to hear your opinion once you start telling them what's wrong with what they're doing, you know? So I would definitely like trying to create a tangible way for younger people to feel, just to get a dose of what we came from, and bringing up hip hop. Like that's pretty much my mission. You know what I mean? That's like, I feel like that's why I'm here, is to mentor, you know, as I'm recording people, as we do studio sessions, we're talking, you know, and that's where the art is at. You know, like you got to feel like, most of the times I have sessions, you know, if we're doing a 2-hour session, we might talk for an hour, and that's just as, if not more important than the actual recording. So to answer the question, I'm trying to like really wrap and make these questions lock in. Um, as far as like, I wish the power that we have with hip hop runs this planet right now. Mm-hmm. We're not really, in my opinion, I don't feel like we're really using it to its best ability. You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
But we're working on it. You always work on it anyway, though. It never ends.
Oh, you were about to say something, so I didn't want to interrupt you.
It's just the reach that you're talking about. We have so much. It's so accessible for our generation to get our voice out there, that I believe that we've gotten too focused on just that, just trying to get out there. And there's a lot of, I don't want to say nonsense, but just like you're just putting out information. There's no consciousness or substance. And I believe we've lost a lot of that as people have gotten older, or as our generation has come into the fold. And I think it's a lot a product of our society, but I think it's also a product of the times. Things move so fast now. Things are made to be so easy now. We just don't spend the same amount of time, in my opinion, appreciating or even noticing what we're doing. Like, and I mean that with all things, because it's like that with all things. Like, for example, like y'all didn't really have the internet, right? Right. I don't mean that like, you know what I mean?
No, we didn't have it.
Figure something out. I don't go to the library. I don't go get a book. I ask someone. I immediately just phone, boom, boop, boop, boop. And then whatever comes up is whatever comes up. It's not like it's a book that someone like checked by a whole bunch of people that went through these lists of people that has now come to me, and I'm reading it. It's whatever someone just put out there, because that's how the internet works now. whatever is the thing that most people have clicked on is the first thing at the top of the screen. Now, it may not be correct. It may be dated, and I just feel that we need to take the time to notice and appreciate these things. And I just don't know how to get people in that mindset. And I feel like it's part of the bridge that you were talking about. That because I have the mother that I have, I'm able to understand everything from where she is to where I am now. And I think that because my generation hasn't been able to fully appreciate or pay attention to what you all's generation has offered us, or how you all have paved the way, we take it for granted. We take it for granted a lot. And in all honesty, it just makes many things much harder. Would you have any suggestions on how my generation can, I don't want to say be more conscious or pay attention more, but I want to be able to help people who are struggling to understand their value and understand the value of the things that surround them. How would you try and explain to someone the importance of everything, I guess?
Whoa.
Right?
Whoa, that's
I
it.
don't know what I'm saying. I mean, I would look at it like this. There's got to be, no matter what it is, there's got to be you have to deal with the elders. You got to you have to deal with the folks that are kind of, in the same lineage, but generally, they went through what you're going to go through. They've went through, they've bumped their heads, they've done the due diligence, hopefully, and hopefully they have some jewels to pass you. But the most important thing is to just be open-minded, kind of keep it to where if you're younger, make it to where you're down to listen to somebody that can just tell you something that, that you're headed to. I mean, I feel like that's if you could just get that one aspect, if we can lock that in, like, we just need to, if there's a way we can bridge the gap between this generation and the younger. This is the music. Like, what we're talking about, this is a hip hop discussion, because this is the why does the music sound like the way it sounds, and it doesn't sound like what we came from, or content wise or musically it sounds drastically different. And I just kind of it's to me, I look at the music as a microcosm of the bigger society. So it's saying if we're not in the studio, if I'm not in the studio, or if you don't have any OGs or anybody that's older than you that you have at your disposal to talk to, then you're not gonna continue the discussion that was started in 88, 89, 72, or whatever. I mean, hip hop just turned 47 yesterday. So we're not going to be able to continue that discussion if we are, dead set on what's right and what's wrong. So I feel like with everything that I do, I've been lucky to not have to. I'm a stay-at-home dad, so I've been home. My oldest is 18, so I've been home for 18 years. So I haven't, and I work, I DJ, and do things and travel, and that's what I did prior to the coronavirus. So my whole thing is, since I've been able to sustain and be a part of the community, I feel like I've been lucky and I've been lucky enough to be able to keep a hand on the touchstone of the culture of hip hop.
Mm.
So I recognize the power of it. That if you're younger, you don't even, you just kind of, you're going through it. You don't even you don't recognize the power that you have by even just doing music, putting it up, throwing it out to everybody. You don't have that. You don't have the the scope to understand, like, who would have thought you'd be able to just do that, and create fans. So that's just one aspect of, like, when you, but it's not a lot. I mean, keep it real. There's not a lot of cats like me that are able to still keep a grip on what's happened musically and then still reach and holler at the younger cats. But I feel like that's the bridge that's man. It just we haven't sustained it good. We haven't locked in the mentorship, like the OG on the block that would be like, I'm watching you. I don't want to see you out here doing what everybody, I don't want to see you doing what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I grew up. I was the kid that were like, everything is going on in on the block, whatever. You're not the one to do this. If you do this, then there's going to be repercussions. And I grew up on a block where it was like, I could run in and out. If it was 20 houses, I could run in and out 8 of them in a day, on the block. So that was how many different perspectives is that, from this, I go into this house and they might have 80-year-old, somebody's grandma's watching, and then the other one is uncles. And so those are just that's different insight that I got as a kid. So I feel like that's the most important part, that I feel like if there was a way we can bridge that and create that mentorship, then a lot of whatever, I don't know. I feel like if we figure out a way to lock that in, then we can really deal with a lot of issues that we're facing right now, straight up. And it's kind of, I read this book Chuck D did, and he had this is an older book, but he had a program, and I should have wrote this down. I got it somewhere, but it was a program that basically was going to take the biggest artists who were in that area and say, you guys are going to go and tour all these schools.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this would be perfect. But it sounded like a great, I don't know if it ever came to fruition, but it was a great idea. And I just felt like that's one of those things that, kids, it's going to always be kids are going to always look up to the artists.
Yeah, true.
Adults. It's going to, the same way we grew up. If anybody would have came to the school, you would have been like, that's crazy. And you just have more power. You have more influence on it. So I'm always lean on the people that have affect your heart and soul. Those are the ones you need to be talking to. And I just feel like that's where, if I could have one thing that I would promote that I think would, deal with a lot of whatever issues we're dealing with, I would say, let's focus on the mentorship and make it to where the kids aren't looking at us crazy and we're not looking at them like they don't know what they're doing, because I've learned over the years that I was a mentor. I didn't do, I wasn't trying to be, but I learned that my house was a safe space for a lot of people to record at and just to get away from whatever they were dealing with at the moment, whether they were in the streets doing whatever, and they come to the house and record a studio, and it's a safe space, and they get to relax and take the armor off for a minute and just chill out and record. And so I feel like that's how unconsciously, I feel like that's, looking back over the last 20 some years, that's kind of what that's been my input into what, the mentor program stuff. And that's kind of what I'm doing now with the nonprofit. Everything just kind of led me, and the way I live just led me into what I'm doing now. I didn't plan to be part of a nonprofit that teaches kids beats and you know, go out the country and do all that stuff. But that's what it led up to, and it makes sense. That's when it all just led up to where I am, and I'm happy to still be a part of it, and kids still look at me like, oh, he's, you know, he's cool, he's cool. He's an older person, but after a while, you forget all about them. Once you start doing beats,
Exactly.
all that goes out the window. You know, you just really like, you're in the zone, and it doesn't matter who helps you do it. You just kind of feel like we did this together, type of stuff. So,
would you mind just sharing one story from any particular country that you remember interacting with the child and introducing them to what happens in your curriculum and how it affected you?
well, I've traveled out the country once last summer with Australia for like a month, and there was one girl we were giving them the hip hop history, which basically was talking about yesterday, August 11th. You know, like that was the curriculum. Like when we do it, we kind of just give a overview of hip hop. You know, South Bronx and Kool Herc, African Bambaataa, and kind of logistically how it started. So we told the story, and we showed the movie, and it shows how the park jams, the DJs would tap into the street lights for the turntables. You know, you would crack it open and you plug into it, and then now you got the music going. So we did the story, and then the next day we came and we had them just do pictures of, you know, things we were talking about, and everybody did their thing. And the homegirl did a picture of the street light with the turntables, you know, a little cord stuck into it. And we're like, you know, we're in Australia, you know, like small school. And this girl drew, I mean, I couldn't even, I was one of those times where it was like, wow, like we're really pushing the culture, giving them a aspect that they have no idea. You know, they have no idea about. You know, even with all the access you have, you know, I'm sure a lot of people don't know that though. You know, a lot of people, and you know, so what though? I don't know. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like to me, it's like it's a big deal, but everybody, you know, maybe doesn't, you know. But if you're trying to be really into this culture, you could do a little bit of history. And now that girl in Australia, she knows a real key component to where we are in 2020. Like that's how it started. She could tell a story like, oh, hey, if you want to know how it really started, it started like this. They would all get in there and it would be packed playing basketball, and there were cookouts, and they would bring the turntables and hook into the light posts, and 20 years later, you know, 47 years later, there it is. So that's one of the moments that hit me real. That was a solid one that made me believe that, like, this is, we got a good mission, straight up.
I love that.
That's beautiful. Do you have any questions for us?
So you said, what is the cooking aspect of what you guys are doing?
Well, my background is I'm a French trained chef, and then I was actually a culinary arts instructor at Laney College for almost 12 years. Mm-hmm.
That's tight. Mm-hmm.
So, and I started cooking when I was 7, and I always loved to cook. And when you talk about that piece in you, like for me, I just, you know, I was the kid that got up and made muffins, like on the weekend, handed them out, you know, on the street. And I had a couple of friends of my father's who would sort of hover around on Sundays around church time. And come, and I'm like, you want to try my new cookies? You want to try my new muffins? But I always cooked, and I tried other things, but the food never left my heart. I felt like that there were other things that I was supposed to do. So I went into banking, you know, I tried other things, and that was fine. But there are times when you realize, what was beautiful to hear your story is it kept moving along. And I find that there are a lot of people who will dissuade you from your dream, and will want you to do other things. And depending on what those other things are, or the economics behind that, you'll go do those, which can be very positive, and at times they can get you off path. But, you know, but moving all the way back around. So right now I have a online cooking academy for tweens where I teach children how to cook online. And I really love that. So I love seeing their faces come in on Zoom and the questions that they have. And then as well, I consult businesses around food. And then I am a content creator around food as well. So.
And a life coach.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah. And a life coach. Thanks, honey.
That's what I was, when you mentioned that, I was really like, that kind of got me hyped, because I've been, like I mentioned yesterday, or whatever day we talked, I mentioned that was kind of my last, I don't know, maybe like 4 years. That's kind of been my real thing that grabbed me. Like, cooking just grabbed me. It was like, oh man, I love cooking, you know. So I'm always trying to figure out the next step, or how do you start to level up? You know, like, what's the next step of, like, hey, you know, I'm cooking this and I'm slowly, you know, cranking it up. But that's it's kind of like, it didn't hit me like hip hop, but it hit me in that same vein of like, oh man, this is something I'm really into. And that's far in between, you know. It's not a lot, you know. You get older, those things that hit you like that become far in between, like hit you and you really want to get in there and figure it out. So it's good to hear from you, like, oh man, that's the thing. But you've had it the whole time. It's just kind of been with you, and now you've actually turned it into a bigger portion of your life.
Mm-hmm. And like you, for me, I love the history of it. I really love the history of ingredients and foods, and where a lime originally came from, or where a lemon originally came from, or why, you know, certain people will eat a bagel, and people don't understand that was time because they were in motion and that they needed to, you know, and then, you know, even get to different starches that we'll use in Africa, and then why they grow in certain regions based upon, you know, all those things are fascinating to me. And I love the parallels of food, and understanding that there is a chicken and rice dish in a zillion countries. And it's a arroz con pollo, or rather it's a jollof rice, or rather, but I love those connections and that continuity, because there's so much history under there. There's so much social justice under there. There's so much social injustice under there. I mean, there's so much that exists underneath those layers that for me, it's that same connection to me for music. You know, I could never live without it. I could never breathe long enough without music. And so when I hear you say it, you know, I didn't have the same connection, but it's, you know, when a song comes on and you could feel the beat, you feel your hand, you could feel the top of the beat, you could feel the beat in the air. You can, you know, there's so much to it, you know, as you're sitting there and you're thinking constantly about how much you love this song, but then what was going on for them as the artists as they were creating it. And so I feel it's beautiful to hear your response, because I feel like I can stand next to it. And
it's a time capsule, you know. It's a time capsule, you know. That's why I feel like I DJ, but I just realized over the last 4 or 5 years, like, I like DJing, but I love music more than DJing. So I really, it's, you know what I mean? Like, DJing, I've been doing that forever, but it's really, I'm like, I like, I love DJing. DJing is always fun, but the music, because the music is the memories, like the music is, that's your, like you listen to a song, you might start crying, you know what I mean? Because it's just like that, because it's just going to pull you. Like that's the part that I think really from a young age, being able to like listen to stuff, and when I hear it, it just takes me right back. I don't know, I have a visual, like I drove by my old house yesterday, and I was like, that was where I first heard hip hop. Like, my grandparents lived 2 houses down from us, so we were in my grandparents' house, and upstairs it was 2 levels. We were upstairs, and I look up there, and when I listen, I hear Sugar Hill Gang. I was like, man, that's it's just music, and food does that too, though. Food takes you right there. It takes you right, right in that space. So, I mean, if everybody could get, that's the one thing I hope kids. I hope they, I don't know, but I hope they're connecting with music that 20 years down the line they could push play and just be good. Like no matter what, you could be having the worst day. You should be able to play that song that could at least, bring you back to where you can, kind of be in a better place. So I don't know if that's, I don't know, maybe it is. Maybe they're listening to somebody now, and maybe I'm out the loop. Maybe there's something that's gonna, maybe it's be like, oh, I'm listening to Anderson .Paak, 30 years from now or something. Because I feel like that's a resource. That's like a hidden resource that we got. You know what I mean? We got that. We got that all day. And we turn pain into art. We turn pain into art. That's hip hop. And the food, everything. We've used what we had to make great things. So, I don't know. And then, question for you. What do you think if you have friends that are like artists? What do you think? Do you think that they're obligated to speak on like the current climate, or do you feel like they could just kind of keep doing what they've been doing?
If I had a friend who my sister is a visual artist,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm not someone who would have a friend who would not talk about what's going on.
I got you. I feel you.
If you're just talking on something, I'm okay with that, but that's just not me. That's not me.
Okay.
I really,
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm gonna cut you off.
I really want to make music, and I've been struggling with it because I got caught up in today's music. I got caught up trying to just talk. And I'm not someone who just talks. In my opinion, I feel like the words that I use, the words that I allow come out of my mouth are very thought through. And so I had to rethink the way I wanted to make music. And I've been trying to find a partner in crime who's on the same level so I can really get my message out there. And that's my plan, but it's been difficult. It's been difficult because I've been looking in the wrong direction. I've been looking in the wrong direction until this interview, in all honesty.
Wow.
I really appreciate your insights. They've turned me around. Yeah.
I'm just talking. I mean, I'm talking to you like I talk to the homies at the studio, like because that comes up. I mean, I was teaching in a school, and literally, like the week before the quarantine kicked off, I'm in this continuation school in Concord, which is, if anybody's listening to this, about 20 minutes from Oakland.
Right.
And continuation school. And the kids, literally, I couldn't even, we're talking about rap, and they were, Mexican cats. I'm talking to them. And somehow we started talking about Cypress Hill and one of my favorite groups. And I was, oh, well, they came out and, they talk about police and they talk about the injustices and, in our community, Black and brown community. And one of the students was like, man, that's cool, man. But, if you ain't rapping about bitches and hoes and getting money, literally, that's literally like a quote. I was like, is this a movie? I'm like, are we like, is this happening? Like, I'm like, dude, really? I'm like, and he said it, I couldn't even, I was like, damn, so people, like, this is really still the standard, like, like, it's like, yo, if you rap about this, and I'm like, I'm never gonna be, I've recorded everybody from, you know, whatever the most positive, or out of conscious, I don't even like using those labels or whatever.
But we
But,
understand.
To the street rap, I don't even like saying, gangster rap, corny, but I've covered the whole spectrum. So what I've always, my stipulation has always been like, you could do whatever you do, just make it creative and put some thought into it, put a little bit of depth into it, and give them, if the end product is whatever the end product is, you have to lead into it. You have to explain why you got to this outcome. Right. So I'm never gonna be somebody to be like, oh, don't rap about that. Don't rap. We're in the class and the dude is like, hey, can we cuss? I'm like, hey, dude, I'm not here to tell you what you can't, on that level. I'm here to record, do some beats, make some music, do some artwork. I can't tell you. The teacher was like, dude, I'm not, it's a continuation school, so they kind of like, we're trying to help you guys get along and do, help you out to get to the next phase, whatever that is. So I'm not gonna tell you what to rap about or to not to curse or whatever. But I just told him, like, dude, like, if you think you want to be a part of this community, this culture, and you want to, maybe make some money, and you want to do it for a long time, then you have to be able to really explain. You have to be able to keep showing whatever the story is. You have to keep giving them that story. Whatever the story, you have to keep being creative, and you need to give them levels. You can't just be like, I've always been like, if if you're I'm a drug seller, I'm a drug dealer, whatever. You have to explain how that affects the rest of your family, though. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Do you have kids? Do you know anybody that went to jail and they got killed? Maybe doing what you're talking about doing. I want to hear give me the whole full thing if you can. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna give you the iron fist and tell you to get out of here, but I'm just trying to. I'm giving my history, my resource, my knowledge of what I think would help with that process of what you're trying to do. But I'm not here to tell you what to rap about, or I'm not going to tell you the content of what you need to be rapping about or whatever. So, but it's still, it's still crazy to, I guess it's not crazy, but it was shocking for me to hear that, like, oh, if it's not this, that, and the other, then it doesn't make sense to me. I was like, damn. And then the next week, the coronavirus kicked off, and it ended the whole thing. Because that to me was like the beginning of the movie. I was like, oh, this is it. This is because I'm always looking for stories.
Yeah.
Whatever I do, I'm always looking for a story. Like, I had to deal with PR, so when you're paying for PR, they need a story to tell. So when he told me that, he was like, man, it needs to be this, 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 and this. I was like, okay, I see what we need to, that's going to be the focus. It's just letting them know that you can, what you're talking about doing is happening, but like with this podcast, asking those other questions or giving that other side of the story that you may not be thinking of,
Right.
like give the more of the full story you can give, the more successful you'll be. in whatever music you're trying to do, you know.
Do you have any other questions?
No.
No.
I appreciate that. I'm going to use that because I really do want to share a part of me.
It's real, man. It's real, man. Don't take it light. You know, this is not a.
That's why I haven't done it yet. I'm a really heavy type person. And every single time I find myself writing something, I'm like, there's a better way you can say that. And I get stuck a little bit in there. So
yeah, I mean, at the same time, I would still let the energy. I wouldn't get hampered down by needing to push a message. Like, don't let the message weigh you down. I had a phase because I MC too. I put out a few projects, but I hit a page where it was like, it was during the Goody Mob and like Outkast, and it was like everything was pretty positive and everything was like, it was like they were like the new Public Enemy, like, oh, like this is the new phase of like the positive but still aggressive. So to me, I felt like everything I had to do, any lyric I had to do or that I wanted to do, had to have the message. And with that, I started to lose flavor though. So you don't want to lose. You still want to be, you still got to be flavorful. You still got to give them. You still got to make it sound, make it clean. So you got like, I'm always use YBN Corday because he's like my 2020 version of what I feel like if you listen to music back in the days, you'll get in there. He has a good balance. So he says he handles everything. He gives us his content. He gives us history. He gives us history on his family. He gives us the young energy, but he still keeps it funky though. Because if it's not funky, it don't matter then. It doesn't matter. You have to still, you got to deliver it. It's like delivering. You got to deliver it if the plate isn't looking correct. You know what I mean? It's not that the food isn't right.
Right, yeah. But the play got to.
Yeah, you got to still deliver it to where people want to be a part of it. So that's what I did. Once I snapped out of that, I was like, man, I got to get my flavor back. I'm starting to lose my flavor because I'm trying to push the message, which is, nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with, if you're Kendrick and even then, somebody like Kendrick, it took him, almost 10 years probably before we all got to know him. Probably took him a decade for him to develop where he could balance it out, and he knew the angles and the perspectives he can give that could encompass the gang lifestyle and still the cultural aspect. And he's like the perfect, not the perfect balance, but up to this point, he's been able to really kind of carry the torch for positive music. I'm just keep it like that, straight up, yeah. And then positive, conscious, even though everybody's music is conscious. Depends on what you're conscious about. So,
yeah. I always love to ask. We ask a couple questions at the end of each podcast, but one of them is, in some form, I love to ask, what do you find beautiful about yourself? And it's funny, I don't feel inclined, which you can answer, but I don't feel inclined to ask you because I feel it just comes out of you, and it's so neat. So
it's beautiful.
Well, I mean, this is what I say. I think I have, like, I love listening to people. I don't have a problem listening to people, straight up. And I recognize everybody has a story. Everybody has a story, and you can connect with everybody. There's always some kind of touch point for everybody. So I think once I realized that doing Uber driving. I Uber drove for like a summer, and I was like, I made it a point. I'm like, I'm gonna connect with every person. Before they get out the car, I'm gonna try to find a way to be like, girls from the East Coast. Okay, cool. Oakland, so Oakland. I do music. Oh, you do, so I always made it a point. It almost became like a game.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of, and keep it real, like that kind of opened me up more because I'm like a real, like, studio DJ, quiet, keep to myself. Like a lot of folks, you'll be quiet. I'm open to my community, but then for a lot of folks, for you, this isn't right now, but for a lot of years, I'll just be quiet to myself, trying to keep, do my thing and talk to the folks that are into what I'm, literally into what I'm doing. Anybody out that circle is like, whatever, But now I realize, like, yeah, man, you gotta try to connect. You gotta try to, especially now when we have the option to not connect. We have the option to Zoom, which is cool. We have the option to do that, and then even, before the coronavirus thing, I thought that, like, man, we need to be really trying to connect. But now it's even, you got to even consciously, like, like it's part of eating breakfast or whatever else, try to connect with somebody. Try to talk to somebody, as much as you can, try to check in. And I feel like that. So getting back to I feel like that's one of the things that kind of I've realized is that I enjoy listening to people. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's been something that's kind of helped me navigate through life, and it's probably been an attribute that I wasn't conscious of, straight up.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah. All right. You good? This has been wonderful. Yeah. You have no idea how much you made my day today. So
thank you.
Likewise.
From her. Thank you for that, because she needed that today.
Oh, man, that's what. It didn't happen on accident. You know what I'm saying? It didn't happen on accident. It's the way it's supposed to rock. So I'm glad. Thanks for Jocelyn, and thank you guys for reaching out and slowing me down, even, slowing me down to even, recollect and kind of refresh and recalibrate some of this so I could even focus more on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You gave me some good nuggets too on some other history I have that I used to teach, but I'm gonna go take some bites out of. So I appreciate that. So we're gonna ask you, if you would, and we ask this at the end of every interview, if you would lean into the camera and if you would say, "I love myself."
Okay. Let me get the better light for this one. Get light over here. Let me see. I think it's better right here. Oh yeah, there it is. Right?
Yeah.
I love myself.
This is the best song. I love this.
Cool.
We just met you. We love you, man. We love you. Thank you so much.
Hey, whenever y'all get back to the town, hit us. You know what's up?
Yes. Sure. And I'm gonna say, I love you, Torrance, man. I had to just say it once.
And I gotta get your names again. What's this names again, please?
I'm Courtney.
And I'm Courtney.
What's it?
Osh without the W.
Osh.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thanks for appreciate it.
Sending you many blessings, and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you so much for joining us on Coming Into Grace, knowing who we are, loving ourselves for.
All right.
Y'all be safe. Be safe.
You too. All right.